Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a special live question and answer session to preview the upcoming fall 2020 semester at Brevard College. My name's Phil DeMont-Mullen, Sports Information Director at Brevard College, and your moderator for this program. This is an interactive format where you, as the viewer, will have the opportunity to leave your questions and comments in the Facebook Live chat function. We will do our best to get to all your questions throughout the evening. With us today are three special guests. First, the president of Brevard College, Dr. David C. Joyce. President Joyce, welcome to the program.
Oh, good to be here. Thank you, Phil.
Next up, the Brevard College Vice President for Academic Affairs and Dean of the Faculty, Dr. Scott Sheffield. Scott, welcome to tonight's program.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And with us as well, the Vice President for Student Success, Dean of Students, and Title IX Coordinator at Brevard College. She is also the chair of Brevard College's COVID-19 Safety Task Force, Dr. Debbie Dana. Debbie, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Phil.
Much of tonight's discussion will focus on the comprehensive set of COVID-19 protocols that have been put in place to make the Brevard College campus as safe as possible this semester. We will, of course, go through some other topics as well, as we're all very excited to get this fall semester going. The first official move-in day for students is this Monday, August 10th, and the first day of classes is on Monday, August 17th. The entire campus has been working hard all summer to prepare for this special time. And to get us started, we'll start with President Joyce. President Joyce, a lot of preparations have been taking place all summer long. A very diligent effort to prepare the campus for the arrival of students, which is beginning as we speak. Can you kind of summarize these preparations and all the effort that went through to prepare for this unique semester?
Well, summarizing would be difficult because it's something that we've been dealing with literally on a daily basis. Our senior team meets weekly. We have a emergency response team. We don't call it that, but that's what it is. That was meeting weekly too, and I meet weekly with all the CEOs of the institutions of higher learning that are residential in our area. That would be Western Carolina, UNC Asheville, Warren Wilson, Montreat, and Mars Hill colleges, and we're all trying to work together so that when we bring students to this area, which will be a lot. I think total, with including us and all the other schools, is close to 16,000 students from all over the world, that we want to make sure that they have a safe and good experience, and that they don't bring anything or take anything away that they shouldn't from our communities. So that's kind of the overall view. But as we honed down, we had to create the protocols that work for Brevard College. And as you know, and I'm sure Scott will talk about, we're an experiential learning is what makes us special. And the best way, in fact, some ways, the only way you can do that is face-to-face. So we started with the premise we want to do face-to-face. When our students left in March to go on break, and then we had to quickly flip and go online, and our faculty did so in a week and a half time of preparation, it all worked, but nobody was real happy with it. So it's not what we do and we do well. So we came back trying to figure out how we could do it. And of course, we're following CDC guidelines. We're also working with, and Debbie, I'm sure, will talk about this, Blue Ridge Health, Transylvania County Health, and the Mountain Area Health Center, which is called MAHEC. All those health organizations have been working with us and help us develop these protocols that we'll get into more depth, I'm sure, in a few minutes, to help students stay safe. Now, I'll talk about it later too, but I will say that the critical elements are the things that we keep hearing, the 3 W's. And the most important is wear your mask. But almost as important is wait 6 feet to keep a social distance. And then the third one is wash your hands often, at least for 20 seconds. That has been proven over and over again to be the best and most effective way that we can prevent the spread of the coronavirus. And everything we do is built around that. We've changed our classrooms. We've changed the way we do dining. We even, again, Debbie can get in the details of this, we're even bringing students back in smaller groups and waves instead of having one day for the new students and one day for the returning students. So that what sounds pretty straightforward is very, very complicated. But at the end of the day, the safety and well-being of our campus community and the wider community everything we did was focused on making that happen.
Great. Thank you, President Joyce. Next, Dr. Scott Sheffield, on the academic side, major preparations have been made in creating safe learning environments at Brevard College. Can you tell us about that process in preparing the college's classrooms for this semester?
Sure. We've been working at it for, gosh, a month and a half now. And what we did essentially was the academic leadership team, which is the division chairs and some other senior staff in academic affairs, worked closely with the COVID task force to develop classroom protocols for the faculty and for the students. And once we had those in place, then we knew what a safe classroom should look like and how it should function. And then we literally measured every classroom on campus, figured out how many students could go in there safely with social distancing, and moved furniture like crazy for about 3 weeks using help from facilities, and special shout out to some soccer players, the student workers who worked tirelessly to move the furniture, and of course my staff assisted with that. And so we arranged all the classrooms, and essentially we had to redo the entire schedule based on that. So then courses were then reassigned to an appropriate classroom for the number of students. We had to split some sections to make them smaller. And in addition to all of that, and finally, we really had to repurpose some spaces that we normally don't use for classrooms as classroom spaces. And that includes Scott Commons in the Porter Center, Francis Pavilion in the Porter Center, Dunham 017. I know it as the band room, and all the majors will know it as the old band room in the basement of Dunham, and also the second floor lounge and Beam Residence Hall. So those are rather unusual spaces that we have worked very hard to repurpose into classroom spaces for a few of our larger classes. And we're still, dotting the I's and crossing the T's on it. And a special shout out to IT. The IT people have been moving projectors and installing microphones for the professors in all the classes. And it's been an ongoing process. We're still finishing, but we will be there. So faculty can begin to practice teaching next week and learn better how to teach experientially in a distance classroom and be ready by August 17th. There you go.
Very good. Thank you, Scott. Dr. Debbie Dana, as the chair of the Brevard College COVID-19 Safety Task Force, you've been in the middle of all this decision-making, all these preparations, all these protocols. Can you kind of shine some light to us as far as what's been going on behind the scenes to prepare for this moment?
Yeah, so we brought a group together of faculty and staff, and everyone was very willing and jumped at the opportunity to be part of that group, knowing it was going to be a lot of hard work and a lot of research behind the scenes for our meetings every week. And we meet every week to talk about the protocols and develop the different protocols for the campus, even for reopening the campus for employees. We all were working from home there for a long time, and we knew we had to get everyone back to campus in a safe way for a couple reasons: to get back to campus and to test out some of the protocols to see what we're missing. And so through that process, we discovered a lot of things that we needed to do and think about that we hadn't thought about before. But, faculty that weren't required to work in the summer jumped on board with the task force, and we listened to some webinars from MAHEC, contacted the health department, read articles, lots of different things to make sure that we had the proper guidelines that we needed to open our campus safely.
And sticking with you, Debbie, for this next question, a number of our students, RAs, peer leaders, they checked in this past week. The majority of the incoming students beginning on Monday with the official move-in date for incoming students and then staggered throughout the week. Can you kind of describe with us and give us some details what students and their families can expect once they arrive on campus?
Yes, as David mentioned before, normally we do 2 check-in move-ins, one for new students and then one for returning. We knew that was not going to be possible this time because we really wanted to be able to manage the number of people that are on our campus at one time. And so every student will was assigned a day and a time for move-in. We are only moving in 15 students per hour. And I will give a shout out to Michael Cohen, who has been phenomenal during all this. His background is in law, and he's very detail oriented. And there is absolutely no way that we could have gotten through this without him. He worked tirelessly at long hours to make sure every student had their time and their day, and it worked, and it was spaced out in different residence halls. So even with those 15 people moving in, they're moving in different halls. So we wouldn't have 15 at the same time in one hall. So that will happen Monday, the 10th through the 16th. And, we'll get them all in here. They're allowed 2 family members, and that's it. Normally we want them to bring as many as they can, but again, we want to be able to manage that crowd, and they can help their student move in, but then we're going to ask them to leave the campus. So again, we can get our students ready for the transition to Brevard College.
Great, thanks. And a couple kind of practical details for folks who may be planning that move-in this coming week. When students arrive, go through the main campus entrance at the red light where the Sims Art Building is. You'll park there. You can then get in line where students will be temperature checked and screened. Students also be sure to have the BC Radar app downloaded in advance so we can get through this process quickly. And be sure to also stick with those assigned check-in times and days so the process can go smoothly as well. Appreciate everyone's help and cooperation with that in advance. Scott, back to the academic side, as far as that student experience in these retrofitted classrooms and some of the other parts of this process that have been planned, can you kind of give students a little more detail on what they can expect?
Yeah, sure. First of all, we're going to have about 90% of our curriculum will be in the traditional face-to-face. Some students will be in online classes. So because we do have some professors that are high risk for COVID-19 and they've requested to teach online. But for us, that's a small number, and they will be teaching online. So some students will have an online experience, but in a small number of classes. So the face-to-face experience, what will that be like? Well, it's mostly in the same buildings that all the students are familiar with. It'll be an acculturation for them to learn there's one way in and one way out. We have to guide people through buildings like you see now in the grocery stores. So there'll be, like for MG, everybody knows MG, you'll be coming in the front, but the other doors will be exits. And there'll be signs on the floor and around. So that'll be the first experience for students. Come in the door. David's going to stand in every door and make sure they have a mask on. No, he can't be in every place, but maybe a cutout of David. We're thinking about that. But the students will be encouraged in the first weeks to there it is right there, right? So you'll go in the door, they'll go in the door, with their masks on, there'll be hand sanitizer stations. When they get to their classroom, and I'll just walk through the building with it, right? What would the experience be like? So they come to the door, they got to have their green card. Have you done your BC Radar app thing? And show your professor your green today. Then you can actually get into the classroom. And then you come in on the right-hand side will be a sanitizing station. Students can, if they haven't already sanitized their hands, can do that. And there will be wipes there to wipe down their desk if they so choose. And then when they get in the classroom, what will it be like? I say it's going to feel spacier, really, because there's not as many tables in there. So it's going to feel more wide open. And we know the feeling of safety goes hand in hand with space and distance in this environment. So we've created the rooms. We got all furniture we didn't need out. So it doesn't feel cramped or anything like that. It feels safe. So they'll go in, they'll sit in their chairs. They'll have to be careful to stay within, in their chair area. In some rooms, there'll be flexibility to move the furniture around for faculty. But we have dowels, 6-foot dowels. So whenever they move, they can judge exactly where the tables are going to be. I think the students will acculturate this very quickly and get in a routine with their faculty very soon. It'll take a couple of weeks for everybody to figure out what you're supposed to do. And then I think, they'll settle in and start doing experiential learning like we always do. It'll be challenging, and we do have the microphones for professors, even in small rooms, so they don't have to shout. They can talk through their mask quietly and be heard. That was very important. And of course, there's all the technology in the classrooms. But we'll have some classrooms that we're actually going to be able to video the whole class if need be, so that it can be put online for students who can attend. So that, I think, is what the experience is going to be like. And I do think it will take students and faculty time to get into the rooms. That's why we're doing that with faculty, to let them work through their anxieties in the next week or so before the students get here. And the students will do the same thing as they get used to the environment. They'll get comfortable with it, and we'll keep doing what we always do.
Very good. Appreciate all that detail, Scott. President Joyce, you mentioned it before, but it's absolutely critical that all of us in the Brevard College community practices those 3 W's: wearing a face covering, waiting 6 feet apart, washing our hands. Can you expound on just how critical this is, that everyone gets on board?
Absolutely, Phil. And we can make light of it, and we can try to be cute, and we have masks with BC on them. We're giving every student and faculty and staff member. But at the end of the day, it's the most effective way to stay safe. I mentioned earlier the 3 health departments health organizations we're working with, and every one of them, including on the CDC, said wearing the mask, doing the distance, washing your hands are the best thing. The medical director at Mayheck told stories, one of which he was doing an operation. Of course, they wear the disposable face masks. They have gloves. They sanitize. And it turned out, and one of their, and I asked if I could tell this, and he said yes. One of the nurses tested positive for the coronavirus, because they get tested before, after, and everything else. So, of course, they had to test everybody in the room, including the patient, and nobody got it except for the person that brought it in. And so we know that masks work. So I asked the question, what percentage? And they said, no one knows exactly. There's a range, but generally, if you wear a mask and you wash your hands and you keep distance, you have a 66%, and both people, all the people in the room do, you have a better than a 66% chance that you won't catch it if somebody has it in that room. And that alone should say something. But what they also said, that we all are hoping for a vaccine and praying for a vaccine, and we've been told that one will probably be available early next year. But they also said that no matter what vaccine is developed, that it's highly likely that its effectiveness won't exceed that of the 3 W's. So if you think about it, you practice 3 W's, it's like taking a vaccine. And when we do get the vaccine, I'm sure that we still will have to practice the 3 W's to increase that percentage. So it's just it's smart, but it's also good manners. I'm technically in the at-risk category. Surprise, surprise. So when I wear a mask, I'm trying to prevent me infecting somebody else. And if you wear a mask, you're preventing me from being infected by you. But when we both wear a mask, it works exponentially well to take care of folks. So yes, I'm very determined, and we're going to be very vigilant with our faculty, our staff, and our students to take this seriously. What we cannot have and we do not want is a breakout on campus. And if we have to have one, the health department will tell us what we do from that point forward. And it kind of leaves our hands in some ways. So consequently, we have to have folks understand this is critically important. And it's for your well-being, and it's for mine. So please encourage everybody and hold everybody accountable. And we will hold everybody accountable for doing that.
Great. Thank you for that message, President Joyce. And President Joyce, if we can stick with you for this next one, in terms of athletics, you're part of a decision by the USA South Conference presidents to move fall sports conference play to the spring for the safety of student athletes, coaches, and staff. For those who may not be aware of that news, can you kind of tell us more about that decision and what it means exactly?
Yes, the NCAA came out early on with some very stringent requirements for athletic contests across the board. As time went on, that got even more complicated. and also watching what was happening in the country around us. The cases of the spread of the virus was not going down like everybody thought was going to happen in the summer. So we waited as long as we reasonably could and looked at, in fact, at this college, we'd actually created protocols. We didn't want overnight travel. We were going to, and a number of other things that we were going to do if we had decided to move forward. And then also across Division III and Division II, many conferences had made early decisions to cancel the fall spring sports. And when the NCAA allowed us, and it gets complicated, to count weeks of time to do your sport, but days, it allowed us the flexibility to do practice and do on-campus things during the semester, but not necessarily have to go do contests in order for folks to use their seasons. Consequently, we looked at, and by the time we made the decision, almost half of all the Division III conferences had already made the decision. And the presidents met repeatedly to talk about if there was any way to, our desire was to go forth. And especially at Brevard College, we have all kinds of new athletic facilities. We wanted to get them and use them. But there was no way to guarantee and to be sure that our athletes and our coaches and our community would be safe under those conditions. So given the flexibility of the NCAA, we moved all our fall sports to the spring, assuming if everybody does the 3 Ws and does everything they need to do, and we can keep from having breakouts on campus, that we would have seasons in the spring, which will make spring a really cool time. We have the spring sports and the fall sports all playing. We'll have one busy semester, but that was the decision. And then since then, the Division III Board of the Council of Presidents, not the conference, has said because they've canceled all championship play for the fall sports because it would be too much to manage, but also the spring sports. Remember, we had no spring sports this past year. So the hope is that the spring sports can have their championship because the fall sports had theirs last year, and kind of even, and pun intended, the playing field. So I think it was a smart decision. It was a safe decision, and it was one that we wholeheartedly, as presidents, it was done by consensus. There was a lot of discussion, but no dissension.
Thanks, President Joyce. Scott, fine arts, big part of the campus community here at Brevard College as well. Major programs in art, music education, theater. Can you let us know how the fine arts programs at Brevard College have been and will be adjusting due to the COVID-19 protocols?
Sure. The fine arts faculty in general have been working so hard this summer to create things that they can do within the protocols and safely. A lot of schools around the country have just canceled their fine arts programs, particularly music. But we're fortunate because we live in a place where we can especially cooperate with the Brevard Music Center. And a shout out to Mark Weinstein and Jason Posnock for their help with our music program. So they have carefully planned out some things they can do. I'll go through some highlights here. I'm going to leave something out, faculty, so forgive me, and they'll be putting out a whole schedule. But the art program has figured out how they can do exhibits of all kinds, and particularly the senior exhibition, a guest exhibit by Frankie Flood, an alumni art show. They're going to do that as well, and they're going to do an invitational iron pour. And they figured out how to do all those things with our students and have limited audiences, and mostly our community will be the audience for most of those, and they won't be able to do as many receptions and things like that, which of course is natural given where we are. But they're going to have a lot of things that people can see, and our students will be very busy in the art department. In music, our chamber singers are going to do short recording projects in Thomas Hall at the BMC, and they're going to share those over YouTube, Facebook, and various e-blasts that go out. So we may not be able to sit in the Porter Center and listen to our singers, but we'll be able to watch them and listen to the beauty of their voices when we record them. And we're spending quite a bit of money, FOFA money in particular, for recording equipment so we can do this. But I think it's important for our students to be able to perform. And they figured out how to do this safely in huge outdoor spaces where they're not a danger to one another or to the accompanists. There's going to be a virtual lessons and carols to be pre-recorded and mixed later on with the organ. So that'll be coming late in the semester. That's something that we all look forward to. And more people will be able to see it because it's recorded now. Because literally there are no seats to see that if you don't get there early. So this will make that more accessible to other people. The percussion and jazz ensembles are going to perform outside sometimes at the Porter Center Amphitheater. And they're also going to live stream some things. So we'll be able to see them virtually perform as we're doing here, right, for those performances. And of course, theater, the sort of biggest thing is the theater performance of Little Shop of Horrors in October. That's going to be a concert version at the BMC. It's going to be a drive-in, like they're showing drive-in movies over there. So the performances are going to be outdoors, the audience in cars listening sound via FM transmission. So that's going to be a drive-in production that we can all go see, and it'll be outdoors. So that's going to be something that's really special, and the creativity to even think about that, again, with the help of the BMC and their experience of showing movies over there, drive-in movies like they've been doing, was in my view, it's just a stroke of genius, really, for our program. And they're also going to be doing a Grace for President Theater for Young Audiences production that they're going to do and video record and take into the schools. That production is based on a children's book, and it's going to be performed with all the protocols in place, and then the video shared in schools, in the elementary schools in particular. So that's a full schedule of things, some of them incredible, and a lot of them video recording and doing it in a very, very unique and a creative way. So I'm really proud of the fine arts faculty for taking the time to figure all this out and really give our students opportunities to continue even in this very difficult circumstance.
Outstanding. Some really exciting endeavors there by the fine arts program. Debbie, a couple more for you, and then we'll take some audience questions and comments. Cohort housing, a big part of this whole equation to keep the Brevard College campus community safe, and also the process of symptom checking, testing, quarantining if necessary. Can you describe the housing side of things?
I can. Before I do that, I really just want to recognize a few groups that have really been helpful in this whole process. Sylvan Sport have been really helpful in helping us figure out how to do some plexiglass for theater and music that will help them safely practice and rehearse. BMC, I can't say enough about the Brevard Music Center and just the cooperation that we've gotten from them with, we're housing some students out there, and it's just a true partnership with them. And I'm very, very thankful for the relationship that we have with them. The health department, Mayheck and Blue Ridge Health, again, we're all in uncharted waters, things that we haven't been used to, and their guidance and their patience and their help with all this has just been something that I really appreciate from our side of things. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't forget to do that with those guys. But cohort housing is something that some schools do with their athletic programs where the teams live in the same area. And we have always been opposed to that because we're a small school, and we want to make sure that our athletes are integrated in with everyone else and to build relationships with people outside their team. But with COVID, we felt the safest thing to do would be to house students with those groups that they're going to spend most of their time with. And so we made a decision early summer after returners had chosen their housing and their roommates and their suite mates. And so I was very happy that Michael didn't quit when I told him we were doing cohort housing. So he had to quickly come together and put this big puzzle of housing together with cohorts. And so all of our students, new and returning, will be living with teammates or people within the same major with theater and music to create those different cohorts, they will also, we've designed the dining hall to where they're the only people that can sit together at tables to eat. So it's designed by residence hall. So there'll be a table for first floor East Beam, and then so on with that. So we really want those students to pick their group, pick your 5, stay with that 5 to help stop the spread if someone tests positive. So screening and symptoms checking. So we're using BC Radar, which is an app, and we're using that for faculty, staff, and students. There's 5 questions they answer. If they answer yes to those questions, they get a red card. They would immediately then, I would be contacted. We would connect them with Blue Ridge Health, and Blue Ridge Health would then make the determination about next steps. Do they need testing, or is it allergies? Why did they get a red? Because a red doesn't necessarily mean that it's a COVID-related issue. It could mean that they have fall allergies, but the health professionals will determine that, not us. And then if someone tests positive, they will go into isolation, not quarantine, but they will go into isolation housing for up to 10 days, or depending on when their symptoms subside. If a student, and then any student they've been in contact with, and contact means that they have been within 6 feet for more than 15 minutes without a mask. And so if a person is positive, because we've had this question this week, if a student is positive in a classroom, does the entire class have to be quarantined? And the answer is no. That's why we have our classroom set up to be 6 feet apart, and masks have to be worn. So that will eliminate everyone in that class from being quarantined. Now, what will happen is the health department would probably contact those students to say, hey, someone in your class tested positive, just watch your symptoms, just to make sure. If a student is quarantined or isolated, they will have meals delivered. They can order online. They will be assigned a campus life staff person that will then communicate with that person and check on them throughout the day. And we will help make arrangements with their faculty for virtual classes during that time period.
Very good. And Debbie, you touched briefly on dining and some of those accommodations. Can you give us a little more detail how the dining hall and also the other areas where students will be able to get meals will work?
Yeah, so we will, all but the underground, which was our snack bar, will be open. We decided that area was really too small to do what we needed to do. So we will have late night dining in the dining hall from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m., which I think might turn out to be a positive that we would continue to do after this COVID is over. But the dining hall will normally seat 300, and I think it's 345 people. We are limiting that to 110. And we've eliminated any table. All tables will only seat 4 people. And again, it has to be within your cohort that you're living with. We don't want people to mix in there to eat. We'll also add outdoor seating. We'll put up some tents so people can also go outdoors to eat. The biggest risk right now on our campus that I feel is the dining hall. So we're going to encourage people to order online and pick it up and then go outside and eat. But we have set up a system where we feel is safe within the dining hall.
Excellent. Thank you. Our first question from our audience from Parker, England. Parker, thanks for joining the program tonight. Are we going to be able to leave campus on the weekends?
I can take that one. So Parker, thank you so much for your question. Yes, the short answer is yes. However, we're going to encourage students to remain on campus unless they really need to go home for the weekend. We understand there's times that students need to travel home. We do want students to let us know when they're going to do that. There will be an online form that they can log in to let us know that they're leaving campus. And then we have so many students that work off campus. And so we want to make sure that we provide that opportunity and make sure that we keep an eye on those students if they're going to a place that has an outbreak. So we can just be a little more diligent with that group.
Thanks, Debbie. And thank you, Parker, for your question. Next question from Marie Schultz-Cox. will the art studio still be open late?
Well, I don't know the exact answer to that. Because I'm not an art faculty member. So for that question to really get a precise answer about when the art studio classes are going to be open to students, they need to contact the art professors, because I really don't know the answer to that question. And a more precise answer, they need to talk to Kyle Lusk or the other art professors and find out exactly what they're planning for studios. I know the schedule will be somewhat different, but I can't give a precise answer to that myself. So
Next question from Madison Ramsey. What happens when the isolation rooms are full and there are even more cases? Debbie or President Joyce, would one of you like to take on this one?
Talked about this. You can talk about how many rooms we have and the fact that the health department will actually make that determination.
Yeah, Madison, again, thanks for the question. So there's a couple things that can play a role in determining that. So if it's quarantined and we have to quarantine a student and their roommate and their suite mates, they can remain where they are. So we wouldn't have to move them at that point. We have to move students when they're in isolation. That's really when you have to move a student, is if they're infected. If they've just been exposed, you can usually quarantine them because of how we're doing cohort housing within their own living space. However, if we were to use all of our rooms, which we have 24 rooms right now set aside that will be used for only that, we will contact the local hotels and use rooms out there as well. The other thing is, if two people are positive at the same time, you can isolate them together. So it's a little more complicated than just a short answer with that, but that's the shortest answer I can give at this point.
Great, thank you. Edwin Jones asked, is there a shuttle to and from the Brevard Music Center?
As far as for students living there, I know that the music department is working on holding some classes and different things out there. And we've been working with Kathy Gresham on helping figure out how to get students back and forth. So we will work on providing transportation for students at BMC.
Very good, thank you. Edwin Jones asks, are there rooms that are now capacity limited?
I guess he means by that the classrooms.
That's my guess as well, Scott.
Okay, Edwin. I know Edwin. How you doing? Yes, we have limited the capacity of classrooms based on a formula of social spacing. So we actually, as I said earlier, measured all of the rooms. I did some of that myself. Borrowed a measurer from David and measured the square footage of the rooms. Applied a agreed upon formula for spacing, 6-foot spaces, and space for the professor in the front of the room, and then calculated based on that how many students could be in that room with a professor at any time. Then we created a whole chart of the rooms and then put the appropriate number of desks in there that corresponded with that safe number. So there will be, once classes start, there will be actually a capacity number written on each door. I mean, on a sign saying what the student plus faculty capacity is on all of the classrooms. So the answer is yes. Yes, there are capacities based on the square footage and the 6-foot spacing. And I want to give a shout out to Josh Wilkie, who's the director of institutional effectiveness. That was not in his job description. But he took up the mantle and became essentially the room czar, and we sent him all the data. He crunched the numbers and figured out how many people we can put in this room. And then, of course, we're testing it to make sure the measurements were correct and we have the right number in there right now. So that's how we calculated it. And yes, that's what we did.
Very good. Thanks for that answer, Dr. Sheffield. Marie Schultz-Cox asks, will students need a negative COVID test to start school? Debbie, would you like to address this one, please?
Sure. Thanks, Marie. We will not do mass testing. And so if you go to the CDC and other guidance has been provided by the medical field, they are not recommending mass testing in the beginning. And the reason for that is because testing is a place and time. And you can test negative and then be exposed 30 minutes later. And so we're really going to focus on the 3 W's. David has mentioned that before. I cannot stress enough how important wearing your masks, waiting 6 feet apart, and washing your hands. It is much more effective than even testing is at this point. And so we will test those that are symptomatic or those that have been exposed to someone that is positive.
Great. Thank you, Debbie. We'll get to some more questions and comments before we sign off this evening, but do want to touch on some things even beyond, the COVID-19 protocols. And President Joyce, it's an exciting time for the college in general. A lot of momentum. You look around campus, renovation of the barn for the Willie program, new field house going up, expansion of Ives Lamel Family Field, just all sorts of excitement and energy. It's a wonderful time to be a Tornado, correct?
Absolutely, Phil. Appreciate you asking that question. And I want to sort of start by not answering that, but picking up what everybody said. If no other message gets through tonight, it's obvious that this campus, faculty, staff, students, and the community have really coalesced around making it work. I talk to colleagues all the time, and some of the issues and things that they have to deal with, we don't, because everybody is all in. In fact, we've kind of adopted, we're in this together. And that's been very well demonstrated by Debbie and Scott about all the shout outs from folks in the community to the folks on campus. And in fact, no job description is only as it states, because everybody has lent a hand in this. And nobody, for me, I'm really excited because when I ask somebody to do something, they not only do it, but they do it with passion and with focus and with no complaints. And for a small community to come together, pandemics do a lot of terrible things, but one thing that's done for us that's positive is it's just proven that a small college where people care about and look forward to being together can come together and make it happen. So that creates excitement. And also remember that our students and faculty went home for spring break in last March and didn't come back. Very few came back because we extended spring break and we went online. So it's been 6 months, almost 6 months since we've had a lot of vibrant folks on campus. But in the meantime, we made a long-term decision that we were not going to pump the brakes on all the plans that we had, that we were going to move forth with our strategic vision, move forth with our plans, and move forth with the way we were financing. And the board gave us our board of trustees, which we haven't given a shout out to, but they've been very supportive. They've been engaged, and they've been helpful. And as you saw, Edwin was asking good questions. He's on our board, and we decided to move forward. And yes, if you walk on campus, everywhere you go, from simple things like grinding up old stumps to painting rooms and buildings to building buildings. And our Willie program has a whole new. I just came back. My wife and I, puppy dog, walked through to see. They have a permanent home, and they're excited. They wanted to show it off. We have so many things and things that are yet to come. We are right now working with the city to get the permits to build a brand new residence hall, because we're growing and we assume we'll continue to grow. And we're building a new residence hall. We should break ground as soon as we get the permits and have it ready by next fall, when hopefully all this is gone by. And that keeps momentum. That keeps hope. That keeps excitement. We've been growing for the last 6-8 years and broke records last year, all-time records for enrollment. And the way our numbers look now, we could break it again. So people want to be in college, and people want to make it work, and people love being at Brevard College. I'll also say is that, I read on the papers, I had at least 2 people today ask me, I was interviewed for different things. Do you think all the predictions about how many small colleges won't make it through the pandemic will come to pass? I don't have an answer to that, but I can tell you that the kind of education we offer, experiential, face-to-face, very personal, in a beautiful community where we also have a great community on campus is very unique. And I think that there's enough people that want this kind of education, especially in a pandemic, where you have to be careful of one another. You have to know your neighbor. You don't want to infect them and you don't want to be infected. So consequently, I think it excites me that folks want to work together and want to be here, and that we're continuing with our plans. Everywhere you look, from the new lighting that was added last year to the new building that's going up in the expansion of the field, to the plans for the future, it gives excitement. But what's going to excite me the most is the next week when we see everybody come back to their other home, and yes, it's a great and exciting time. We just have to be, and again, I'm going to keep saying it, we have to be vigilant to help and recognize that this is a community, we're in this together, and we have to take it seriously to protect each other and follow the protocols. They may be inconvenient, they may be even seem silly at times, but it's proven to work. So we're going to have a good year. I'm confident that we are.
No doubt about it. Thank you for that, President Joyce. And you mentioned the WILLI program. For those who might not know what that is, the Wilderness Leadership and Experiential Education program at Brevard College. And we've talked about fine arts and some of the things they're up to. Scott, we've touched on a few of these majors, but can you fill us in further? Any new developments on the academic side, perhaps new offerings for Brevard College students?
Well, I mean, like David said, we're going to proceed with what we had planned to do. And so we've had some strategic initiatives ongoing. And, our traditional programs like WILLI, getting a new home is really a big deal for us. We'll be building the farm on the backside of the campus for the environmental studies program, for our sustainable agriculture program. We've been slowed down a little bit because we're doing so much, but that's coming as well. We were doing intensive learning opportunities. Those are the things that special classes, like Mike Castellaz taking students up to Perry for an astronomy class. That is still going to be an integral part of what we're doing going forward. Of course, we've had a little bump in the road because of COVID, but in the spring, we hope to start bringing that back and developing that over time to have as many as 10 or 12 intentional learning opportunities, special learning opportunities, part of the general education program over the next 3 to 4 years. We're going with that, and that's connected to really the biggest initiative we're taking because of our accreditation, and that's the quality enhancement program. We're going to be focusing on collaborative learning. We do that so well at Brevard College, and for the next 5 years, we're going to collaborate in teaching and learning all over campus. And that is a major development that students will be hearing about as soon as they get back on campus, because we're going to be doing some extraordinary things related to collaborative learning. In terms of new academic programs, we're going ahead. We're proceeding as we had planned in developing some master's programs. We're still planning to hopefully have one up and running in the fall of 21. And those will be low residential master's programs, which means mostly online, but with some intensive learning on campus. And the first program we're looking at adding is it's emergency planning and security studies, which is an outgrowth of our CRJ program. But with the field house now completed, or about to be, right, David? The human performance lab that's in there, when that's put together and we get the equipment for that, we can also explore a human performance degree, a master's degree in human performance. So those are exciting things. Those are all not guaranteed. I want to be clear on that because our accreditor says we can't announce that we have them until they say we can have them. So, but those are things in planning for 2021. So keep tuned. We'll tell you what's happening, right? More is coming.
Very good. It sounds like some very exciting times ahead on the academic side of things. Debbie, in terms of first-year students, a full experience is on tap for them once they arrive here at Brevard College. Creek Week, the whole FYE program, first-year experience is what it stands for, and also the Success Mentor programs. Can you touch on those aspects a bit and what first-year experience really means here at Brevard College?
Yeah, so Creek Week is what we call our new student orientation. And, we felt it was really important that we provide that experience for our new students to come in, because we really want them to get adjusted and transition into Brevard College and have a successful semester. And so Beth Abrams, Leigh Tavoloni, Nicole Potts, Chris Center, all those guys have been working really hard to plan those events for us. Now they will change. There was a lot of things we did with outdoor experiences in the past that we just can't do because of COVID. But most of the events that we can do will take place outside, but they will be organized with their first year experience class. So they'll get to know their classmates, but we just won't be able to mix and mingle like we had in the past. But we will do some virtual meet and greets. And I'm confident that those guys they're creative and they'll be able to figure some things out to provide the best possible experience for our students in a safe environment. Our peer leaders are here and our RAs are here, and they're working hard again to make sure that when our new students arrive, that they are welcomed and have the support that they need to get on with the semester and transition to Brevard College. It's being a new college student can be overwhelming. And then you add in all the things that have been going on for this incoming class. And they bring with them a lot of things that the other classes haven't had to deal with. They lost their senior year. Many of them lost a big portion of their senior year, and they didn't experience a graduation like most people had, or a prom, or their senior high school theater production, choir production, or their season if they were an athlete. And so we want to do everything that we can to provide them those traditions that they would get in a normal year at Brevard College. They'll have a convocation experience because we think that's really important for them. Creek Week experience because we think that's really important for them. And so it'll be a great time. And again, I think some of the things will stick even after this is over.
Great. Thank you for that, Debbie. Do want to let you know if you do have a question for our panel, we do have a few minutes left, so feel free to leave your question or comment in the Facebook Live chat box. This next one, back to the COVID-19 protocols, comes from Sarah Gallagher. Will commuters quarantine at home? Debbie, would you like to take on this one?
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for that question. And yes, commuters will quarantine at home. They will not need to be on campus to quarantine.
Very good. Thank you. Next question from Parker England. Are the masks, I guess the ones that Brevard College is providing, breathable?
Hey, Parker. I will say.
So far, so good, Parker.
They are breathable. They're very comfortable, much more comfortable than I thought they were going to be. And so students will have the choice of either a mask or a gaiter. And they're both very comfortable. I think they are. You can see these guys have them on, so they can speak to that as well.
Still breathing.
Not only breathable, Parker, you can host a radio show with them on. Next question from Zandria. Excuse me, sorry, Zandria, if I'm mispronouncing your first name, Colbert. Have the dorms already been cleaned and sanitized?
Hi, Xander. They have, and they continue to be cleaned before students arrive. So housekeeping will continue to go over there and sanitize, but they've had deep cleaning already, and then they will have maintenance cleaning before students arrive.
Yeah, one of the advantages, we usually have camps and music, the lyric opera in the summer. We had to cancel all activities that from outside that came through, any activities in the summer. So that allowed us to really, one, it kept us safer, but also allowed us to really take the time to really do deep cleaning and taking care of the facilities so that we would have them ready for you when you came in next week.
Very good. Appreciate that. Roberta Ingram asks, when will students get their student IDs?
So, Roberta, you'll get your student ID at your check-in day and time. So we will take your picture and then you'll go through the process, and your ID will be ready before you leave campus. And if you're a residential student, your RA will pick them up and hand them out to you later on that night.
Very good. Thank you, Roberta, for that question. Madison Ramsey asks, if the dining hall seating is arranged by cohort, how will the students who live in green be seated since the rooms are singles?
So Madison, you guys will not be part of that cohort seating because you guys really aren't a cohort in green because you have single rooms. So you would sit at a table. And again, like I said, everybody will have a cohort. So you will have those group of students that you're going to hang with. And that's what we will encourage you guys to do is to either sit with those people that you find as your group, or you can sit outside, or you can grab your food and take it back to your room. So you'll have a lot of different options there.
Very good. I appreciate everyone's questions and comments. Another one here from Jordan Casey Hawk. What will outdoor classes do when it rains or it becomes cold at the end of the semester? Scott, would you like to take on this one?
Sure. We don't schedule classes to be outdoors. So there are no 16-week outdoor classes except maybe in Willie. And then, of course, those folks figure out what to do when it rains and things like that. So there will be some outdoor classroom spaces that professors can make use of. And they will make use of those spaces when it's not raining and it's not cold. So it won't be a matter of you have this class outside all the time and then you have to go inside, and then you're forced inside. The classes will be going outside when weather and is appropriate. So that's the answer to that. And we're hoping that professors will, use the outdoors when they can in their classes. I know Debbie's encouraging students to bring a camping chair, and our professors can then say, hey, we're today for class, we're going to go outside and do something and bring your chair. So we're hoping to, and we designated some spaces for faculty to do that on campus. So that's how that's going to be handled. Outdoors when we can.
Not a bad place to be studying outdoors here in the mountains of Western North Carolina, that's for sure. Really appreciate everyone with some great questions and comments, and hopefully this was informational for folks. We still have a little more time if you want to get your questions or comments in, but as we start to see the finish line on this program, would like to give each of you an opportunity for sort of a final message, final words to the Brevard College community as we're on the eve of the start of the fall 2020 semester. Dr. Debbie Dana, we'll start with you. Final thoughts.
I'll just say that I believe in our student body. I know they'll do the right thing. I know that they care about each other. They care about their community, and they'll wear their masks. They'll stay 6 feet apart, and they'll wash their hands often. And I believe in our campus. I believe in our faculty and staff, and I know we all want to make this the best semester possible with what we're facing. And I have every confidence that we can do that. People have been working hard to make this happen, and I know there's anxiety, and I know there's just some not fear, but a lot of anxiety around all of this. And I just want to say that we have a good plan, and we're going to work that plan. And we know that there's going to be times that we're going to have some detours, and that's okay. That's what's great about Brevard College. We're small, we're nimble, we can be flexible, but it's a wonderful time to be a Brevard tornado.
Outstanding. Well said. Thank you, Debbie, and thanks for joining us this evening. Scott Sheffield, final thoughts for our Brevard College community.
Well, I just want to say, particularly to the new students, because the old students or returning students know this already. Our faculty is outstanding, and they are ready to engage, and they're going to be facing some challenges just like you are, and figuring out how to do experiential education in the socially distanced classroom. But I'm confident that they're up for the challenge, and they're ready to learn with you about how we're going to do this in the best Brevard College tradition. So if you're coming, just know that you're going to have faculty that care about you, and we'll all work together to give you a great educational experience. And it's going to be different. but different in a way that will hopefully be very good. So I'm hopeful for the semester.
Very good. Thank you, Scott. President David Joyce, final message for the Brevard College community?
Absolutely. The one group that we haven't thanked, and because they don't expect it and they don't need it, but they deserve it, and that's the senior leadership team, the executive leadership team. You saw with Debbie and Scott, but Catherine, Juan, Chad, and all the folks that have been working diligently on a day-to-day, even through the weekends basis, to make sure that we have a safe opening and a safe semester. So we've heard about how everybody in this campus has coalesced around, and the leadership team that we were so fortunate to have helped and led this process. And so I'm confident that we're going to have a great year, just like everybody else is. And we expect and we assume that everybody will follow the protocols and make sure that this happens. And I thank you, Phil, for putting this together and asking the questions and facilitating, but help us educate our community campus-wide about what we're doing and how we can make it work.
Very good. Well, do want to let folks know, if you need more information, most everything is at your fingertips at brevard.edu. For students, My Brevard is your headquarters for most all the information you could possibly need. Also, be sure to download that BC Radar app. And don't forget those 3 W's: wear a cloth covering over your nose and mouth, wait 6 feet apart, avoid close contact, wash your hands often with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, or use hand sanitizer. David Joyce, Scott Sheffield, Debbie Dana, thank you for joining this evening's program. Brevard College, we'll see you soon right here on campus in Brevard, North Carolina. Have a great fall 2020 semester. Thank you for watching. Go Tornadoes.